Hi everyone! In this video I'll show you how I drew up this still life into a finished charcoal drawing on gray paper. Drawing on gray paper is so fun because you only add black and white charcoal and blend them both into the mid-tone of the paper. Here are the supplies I used: a 2H graphite pencil, a white rectangular plastic eraser, and a kneaded eraser, 3 charcoal pencils, number 6B, 4B, and 2B, some vine charcoal, the really lightweight stuff, a white charcoal pencil and a stick, a pencil sharpener, some paper blending sticks, and last but not least, a paper towel for blending out those large areas. Okay, let's take another look at this still life here. Notice the objects themselves as well as the shadows that I've casted with a light. I'm going to look at the largest shapes first and very loosely and lightly sketch them on my paper. At this point, I'm not worried about the details. I'm not looking at the designs in the teapot, just the outer shapes of the objects. As I start the loose sketch, I'm just trying to place the objects on the paper and I'm not worrying about the specific shapes at all. I'm sort of mapping out the objects that are existing together within the frame. If you plan well at this very beginning step, you will not have to cram a shape into the edge of your drawing later. I like to erase as I go so I don't confuse myself with the first initial lines that I made. And once I have everything laid out, I can begin to redefine the shapes a little more. Looking at the body of the teapot, which should be somewhat symmetrical, a straight line can help the eye compare the curves of the left and right sides. Straight lines also help in drawing up ellipses, or circles in perspective, which I use to get the curves of the plate to look just so. Then I added in the bottom of the plate and defined the edges a little bit more, and this brings it further into the foreground. Then I double-checked some of my estimated placements. You can see here that the top of the teacup is actually much closer to the tip of the spout than where I originally drew it. When I draw, I'm constantly looking at all of the spatial relationships of the objects in order to see how they all fit together. Another way I double-checked my shapes is by measuring. Here I'm holding up my pencil to mark the height of the cup with my thumbnail. I held my thumb in place and compared that height to the width of the cup. You can see it's just a tiny bit taller, but not much. I didn't want to draw the cup too tall. Here I used a light line to see where the bottom of the cup lined up with the bottom of the teapot. You can also use the straight edge of your pencil to sight imaginary lines like this. Some other size measurements that I made were the overall height of the teapot compared to the widest part of the body, the width of the teapot compared to the width of the plate, and the height of the plate compared to the lid of the teapot. These comparisons should be similar to the compared size of the objects in your drawing. When I was happy with the graphite drawing, I moved on to the white charcoal stick. I started looking at the brightest values first. I worked the white stick into the surface of the paper, and I varied the pressure I was using to control how much of the stick came off onto the paper. So I used more pressure on the areas that needed to be brightest. For the large area of the negative space, I used a paper towel to blend the stick marks, working in small circles to push the charcoal into the grain of the paper. Then I moved on to the white charcoal pencil, which allowed me to lighten some areas even more. For this step, I worked in small circles and then blended the white pencil marks with my paper blending sticks. Looking at the still life again, you can see why I'm not coloring my white teapot with the white charcoal. Instead of thinking of the colors, I'm looking at only the values of light and dark. There are many mid-tones in the ceramic dishware and in the shadows, and of course the middle gray is already in the paper. So next I worked with my dark tools. Using the 2B charcoal pencil, I drew some of the finer lines and really started giving the teapot some dimension. Then I used the vine charcoal piece for the softer shadows curving down the smooth ceramic. I blended all of the black charcoal placed so far with my other paper blending stick. Then I came back in with my 4B charcoal pencil and worked in the next darkest value. and I also refined some of the edges of the objects. I continued this process of adding charcoal and blending it until I came to the final details. With the 2B charcoal pencil, I drew the floral pattern onto the ceramic. A good drawing always requires patience. Let's slow this down a minute and show you a few seconds of drawing in real time. The final steps included adding the rest of the details, like the tiny reflected highlights in the tea and on the ceramics, the crumbs on Sam's famous mini muffins, deepening a few small shadows, and adding the rest of the decoration on the teacup.